What if I told you one of the most misunderstood places in New York City holds some of the deepest, most powerful, and untold stories in American urban history? When people hear the Bronx, especially the East Bronx, they often think of headlines, stereotypes, or quick assumptions. But the truth is, this place carries stories of survival, culture, migration, and resilience that most people have never taken the time to understand. Long before highways, apartment blocks, and subway lines, the East Bronx was quiet, rural, and almost unrecognizable compared to today. In the 1600s, this land was inhabited by Indigenous Lenape people, living close to nature, long before European settlers arrived. Then came the Dutch, and later the English, and slowly the land began to change. Farms replaced forests, roads replaced trails, and over time, small villages began to form in areas we now know as Westchester Square, Throgs Neck, and Morris Park. But here's something most people don't know. For a long time, the Bronx wasn't even part of New York City. It was originally part of Westchester County. It wasn't until the late 1800s that the Bronx was officially annexed into New York City, and that decision would completely reshape its future. Now imagine this moment. The early 20th century. Immigrants are arriving in massive numbers, Italians, Irish, Jewish families, all searching for a better life. Manhattan is overcrowded, expensive, and chaotic. So where do people go? They move north, into the Bronx. The East Bronx became a place of opportunity. Families built communities from nothing. Small businesses opened. Churches, synagogues, and schools became the heart of neighborhoods. Places like Arthur Avenue became cultural centers, not just for food, but for identity, language, and belonging. People didn't have much, but they had each other. And then came one of the most defining and controversial moments in the Bronx's history: the construction of highways. In the 1940s and 50s, urban planner Robert Moses led massive infrastructure projects across New York. One of them was the Cross Bronx Expressway. On paper, it was progress. It connected cities, improved transportation, and modernized New York. But in reality, it tore communities apart. Entire neighborhoods were destroyed. Thousands of families were displaced. Homes, businesses, and memories gone. And this wasn't just physical damage. It created long-term economic struggles, isolation, and division that would affect the Bronx for decades. This is something many people don't realize. The struggles the Bronx faced later didn't just happen. They were shaped by decisions made years earlier. Now fast forward to the 1970s. This is where the Bronx gained a reputation that still follows it today. Buildings burning, streets neglected, poverty rising. There's a famous phrase people still remember: the Bronx is burning. But here's the truth most people don't hear. Not all fires were accidents. In some cases, landlords, facing financial loss, abandoned buildings or were involved in insurance fraud. At the same time, the city was struggling economically and services were reduced. But even in those darkest moments, something powerful was being created. Out of struggle came culture. Out of hardship came a voice. The East Bronx, along with the South Bronx, became part of the birthplace of hip-hop. Young people with limited resources but unlimited creativity turned streets into stages. Music, dance, graffiti, and storytelling became a way to express reality, pain, and hope. And one of the pioneers of this movement was DJ Kool Herc, who helped start a cultural revolution that would spread across the world. Think about that. A global movement, born in neighborhoods people had written off. Now here's a story that many people have never heard. In neighborhoods like Soundview and Castle Hill in the East Bronx, during the 70s and 80s, communities didn't just give up. Residents organized. They formed tenant associations, protected their buildings, and rebuilt what was falling apart. In some cases, abandoned buildings were taken over by the community and restored, brick by brick. These weren't big government programs. These were everyday people refusing to let their home disappear. That's the side of the Bronx that rarely gets attention. Not just struggle, but strength. Not just damage, but rebuilding. Today, the East Bronx looks very different. Neighborhoods like Co-op City, one of the largest housing developments in the United States, represent a different chapter. Built in the late 1960s, it was designed to provide affordable housing to thousands of families. And it became a city within a city. Schools, shopping centers, parks, everything people needed to build a life. But even here, there were challenges. Financial struggles, maintenance issues, and community tensions tested residents. And still, people stayed. Because for many this wasn't just housing, it was home. And that's the thread that connects the entire story of the East Bronx. Home. Through every wave of change, from farmland to immigration hub, from displacement to decline, from struggle to revival, people held on to something deeper. Their identity, their culture, their community. And today, if you walk through the East Bronx, you'll see something powerful. You'll see diversity in its purest form. Latino, African American, Caribbean, South Asian communities, all living, working, and building together. You'll see street vendors, family-owned businesses, parks filled with life, and stories being written every single day. It may not always look perfect, but it's real. And maybe that's what makes it so important. Because the untold history of the East Bronx isn't just about the past. It's about resilience. It's about how a place can be broken and still rebuild. It's about how people, even when pushed to the edge, find a way to create something meaningful. So the next time someone mentions the Bronx, especially the East Bronx, remember this: you're not just hearing about a place. You're hearing about generations of struggle, sacrifice, creativity, and survival. A place that refused to disappear. A place that kept going, even when the world stopped paying attention. And maybe that's the real story people need to hear.